This episode of Legacy Battle is sponsored by Dubby Energy Drink.
W Energy is a more affordable and healthy sports drink option with over 10 plus flavors, no artificial fillers or dyes, made to prevent crashes, jitters, and angst.
Go to www.dubby.gg and order your sports drink today. Put in the promo code Legacy Battle for a 10% discount. Thank you for watching. Welcome back to another episode of Legacy Battle. I am Michael Adams, my co-host tonight from the Gridiron Battle Zone, Brian King. Steelers Nation South, Rollo Coughlin will be along here in a few minutes. We have an interview for you with Joe Jacobi, a two-time U.S. Olympian and the slalom canoeist, winning the gold medal at the Olympics in Barcelona. He is a five-time U.S. national champion. He has written books, worked for NBC's Olympic coverage, and has been chief executive officer for USA Canoe and Kayak. Joe, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Thank you so much for the invitation to be here.
Awesome. Let's get this started. Brian, go ahead.
So, Joe, you were born and raised in the Washington, D.C. area. In your youth, what was it that drew you to canoeing, kayaking, and general water recreation?
So, what's a couple of interesting things about this, Brian? I think in the United States, when people think about whitewater rivers, they think about places like Appalachia, they think about the Rocky Mountains. And, if you think about where those mountains are, they tend to be in rural areas, far from big cities. And the Washington, D.C. area is so unique in that you've got this major city and an amazing whitewater river that runs through the middle of it, the Potomac River. So when I was a kid going to summer camp, right around, we would start in June and finish in August. And back then, a lot of summer camps had open canoes, like the big metal canoes. We were one of the few camps in the country that had whitewater kayaks. And the real answer to your question then is like, why did I get into it? Because when you're 10 years old, you're not very athletic. Your sports career looks a lot more like a career in journalism than it does as an athlete. And then you find yourself doing something better or something that kind of gives you like a feeling of like notoriety or skill development at 10 years old. You're like, I want to do more of that. And I was one of the first kids in my group. My friend and I learned how to do the Eskimo roll together. So when you flip over in the kayak, this is how you right the boat back up without coming out. And that was enough to get going. It's like I had never been the first or the fastest, the best, the strongest at anything in my life. And I'm like, oh, this is something I could do. So all those factors put together, the Washington, D.C. area being an amazing place to do the sport, this amazing river, a summer camp that had kayaking, and then I had a proficiency for it, when I was young. And I'm like, yeah, this is the sport. This is where I want to be.
So, Joe, for 5 years straight, from 1988 to 1992, you're the U.S. national champion. What made you so successful in the rapids, and how does one train for paddling sports?
Actually, so it's really funny. I know the national champion thing sounds great. Like it was a great experience. But I think the answer to your question, actually, we can pick up right where we left off with Brian's question. So I got into this training group on the Potomac River, and it's kind of like a Malcolm Gladwell outlier story. Like you cannot believe how lucky you had to be like born when I was born in the Washington, D.C. area. There was a training group there that was like all world champions, world medalists, and the legendary coach of the sport. And the legendary coach, what made him legendary, he was paranoid about keeping the performance of going. The United States was dominating the sport of whitewater canoeing. His world champions were all in their early 20s, and they just felt like they needed some younger people. And their efforts recruited me, not because like I was athletic or showed potential. I just like showing up there. And so by virtue of like showing up, this would have been like me, being 12 years old, and and the kids I get to play basketball with happen to be the Oklahoma City Thunder. Like that's the kind of level that you're playing with. So that environment that we trained in, Michael, it was based on competition. Like our practices, we competed so hard against each other. Like we often finished World Cup races, international races, and we would almost measure the intensity of those races, whether they met the intensity of our practice sessions on the Potomac River. So honestly, like winning the national championships was nice, but and we had good competition back then in the doubles canoe in the United States. But the real thing was performing internationally and getting good results on the international stage. And it was our practice sessions on the Potomac River that really facilitated that. And I loved being a part of that.
So, Joe, as I understand it, the canoe slalom was an Olympic sport in 1972, but then it was absent from the games for the next 20 years until Barcelona 1992 when you won the gold medal. So, did that affect your preparation for the Barcelona Olympics in some way? Like maybe a hesitation about what to fully expect?
Uh, it's really funny. My father passed away 5 years ago, and I'm sure there was a time in his life where he would answer this question a little bit differently than me. I think what is so great about what I'm so grateful for in my journey is that I fell in love with the sport when it was not on the Olympic program, meaning when I was 12, 13, 14 years old, there was no Olympic dream. Like I just liked the sport because I liked the sport. And if I was dreaming about something, it was about being a world champion or maybe one day a World Cup champion. And the Olympics didn't really come back into reality until my canoe partner and I were already starting to get pretty good results. Like it was actually re-added to the Olympic program in in the spring of 1989, and we had actually were just getting ready for the World Championships on the Savage River in Western Maryland, very close to where you guys are from in Pittsburgh. And it was the first time the United States had ever had a World Championships. And it was such an exciting event for us to have a World Championship. Our sport, the competitive side of canoeing is really anchored here in Europe, where I live now. And so to host those World Championships, and we came in fifth in those World Championships, just a hair from winning a medal at those World Championships. But the reason I tell you that story is because by the time we were on the Olympic program, like my canoe partner and I were fifth in the world at the World Championships. Like we were already good. Like we were already winning medals in World Cup races and getting good results in the World Championships. So like nothing was ever really built on an Olympic dream. It was built on being in a sport, an activity that I love doing, the people I love doing it with. I did reference my father. My father, like, having the Olympic credibility made him a lot happier when that happened, and winning the Olympics was also a great thing. I think how he felt about my time, my journey in the sport, he probably felt different after the Olympics than beforehand. But yeah, like I think that's the thing that I always talk about with kids is that the Olympic stage is great. It's nice. It gives you a lot of recognition to people who wouldn't ordinarily see what you get to do. But it's hard to be in a sport you don't love. It's hard to be around people you don't enjoy being with. So that to me is the most important thing.
In the year 2000, you were named Paddler of the Century by Paddler Magazine. That is 100 years of paddlers. So, what was your thoughts at the time when you found out? And give me an idea. Is that like, I don't know, winning like the Heisman or Lifetime Achievement Award at the Oscars? What? Give me something to coordinate that.
It's I don't know how to answer. It's one of these things, like as you know from our pre-conversation before we started recording, I know a lot about baseball. So we all have an appreciation for like what Hall of Fame means or being named MVP means, right? We sort of know what those things mean. And yet I've always sort of in the sport of canoeing I've never really liked like halls of fame and paddlers of the century and the most valuable this or most valuable that, because canoeing is a hard enough sport for kids to access right now in the United States. Kids are not going to their PE teachers and checking out canoes and kayaks during recess. So it makes me think like, gosh, what if we just sort of invested all this attention on the best this or the best that in kayak schools or paddle sports instruction programs for kids, or like here in Europe, making things like the outdoors and adventure sports and nature more accessible to kids in public school systems. Like, I think those are the things that how I sort of come back with that. And I just sort of downplay those other things. And once upon a time, guys, like those kind of recognitions felt good. Today, it's just all I really care about is my friendship with the people that I used to paddle with. Like, that's all that really matters. It doesn't matter whether they made an Olympic team or not, or whether they won an Olympic medal or not. It's unbelievable how similar our life journeys are when we just talk and have those conversations. And at 55 years old, that I get to have conversations with these athletes all these years later. I love that. That's my favorite part of it.
All right. So, Joe, at the 2008 Summer Olympics, you were a color analyst for the canoeing coverage. Did you have any like experience in color commentary, and how did you get that role?
Uh, man, I love that. I've been to the Olympic Games in a lot of different capacities, athlete, chief executive officer, and color commentator. And, working for NBC was just absolutely amazing. Like, then, first of all, they take really, really good care of their people. And secondly, their people care so much about the Olympics. Like, I cannot tell you how many times I would walk through the media broadcast, the broadcast media center in Beijing, and literally just see producers like, with tears coming down their face. Like, they love what they do and they're so good at it. So I didn't have previous experience, but a lot of color commentators for NBC don't. You do have to you have to try out to do it, and they're not just trying you out, they're trying you out with other people. But I'll tell you, I think a story that you guys will enjoy, one of my favorite stories. So my broadcast partner for the Whitewater Canoe Solemn was Craig Hummer. And you may know Craig is the voice of professional bull riding, in the US. He's also a former Baywatch lifeguard. I mean, he's a great looking guy, but this guy, he just wants to do such a good job. And so he made a point to invite me out to California to teach him, to do some kayak lessons with him. Like, he wanted to try the sport to help his knowledge and understanding of the sport. And the best part about that is that we became good friends before we went to Beijing. And so when we got to Beijing, and he was just coming off the Tour de France podcast at the time, and we were sitting on a sofa in the producer's office, and he and I were there first, and before the producer, and we just kind of got into this conversation. And the producer had walked in behind us, and then he stood in front of us, and he goes, "I want this." And Craig and I look at each other and say, like, "You want what?" "This, what you guys are doing, the way you guys are just talking like friends right now on a sofa. Like, I want you to have that vision while you're doing the commentary, and that the viewer is sitting in between you two, and the three of you guys are just watching and talking and enjoying the canoeing competition." And the way that was set up and the way Craig and I got to prepare for that, and we worked really hard on the stories, on the delivery, but I learned so much. It was an absolute working trip. I did a few fun things in Beijing, but I loved the work. I loved the storytelling, and I learned so much being in that NBC world for a month in Beijing, and it was one of the best Olympic experiences of my life.
Then in 2010, you become the chief executive officer for USA Canoe and Kayak. So, what do you think are some ways that you, being in charge of all that, can help the sport grow here in the United States?
Well, I'm a performance coach today, and I work with leaders. And I mean, if I were really to do a deep dive and a deep dig into this, I wasn't very good at I wasn't very good at leading others. I mean, I always tell my clients that, when I initially started in my job as CEO of USA Canoe Kayak, I was really good at taking care of others, but really bad at taking care of myself. And so, that had an adverse effect. I mean, at the time, within 2 years of that job, I weighed about 60 pounds more than I do today. I was irritable. I was just very short with people. I didn't have a sense of how to lead people. I had never had a paycheck job in my life before. And that was the learning experience. But I did get better at it. I wasn't fired and I didn't quit like halfway through at the low point of it. And I did come out the other side of it. What I would say about the experience is that I was obviously very hopeful that I could share or integrate more values and alignment, more values and systems and frameworks about like what worked for us into a system that would help the United States in the future. Just found that to be very, very difficult. Like, I think, people are just in different parts of the United States. It's a very big country, and people have their own ideas about how they want to coach the sport, how they want to sell the sport, how they want to produce the sport. And so, yeah, I think was one of the real challenges. But I will tell you, there's kind of a cool ending to all of this. And I don't know if this fits into your questions or not, but I'm sure you guys are aware that Los Angeles is going to host the Olympics in 2028. What a lot of people don't know is that the whitewater canoe slalom events are not going to be held in Los Angeles. They're going to be held in Oklahoma City. And that is where I relocated USA Canoe Kayak to when I was the chief executive officer, for just the momentum and the spirit of that city that was happening, that was kind of anchoring more than a $200 million investment in the Oklahoma River. Now, I never thought in a million years Oklahoma City would be hosting the Olympic Games, but I always believed in the venue. I believed in the spirit of the city. And to me, as I look out my window here in La Salle d'Urgell and I see these Spanish and Andorran athletes now with an Olympic dream of winning a medal in 2028, I know the place that is anchoring that dream. I know the people. I know the spirit of the people. I know what it's like to be in a different world and to have the sense of unpacking your bag and really living in the city that's hosting the Olympic Games and not being like a visitor living in the Olympic Village. And I think the more comfortable you are in your own skin, competing, then the better the performance that you can have at the games. And so out of this executive experience that I had running USA Canoe Kayak, I think what makes me the happiest is that some of those efforts were helpful in the development of Oklahoma City, its whitewater venue, the whole development of the Oklahoma River, and now, hosting the 2028 Olympic Games, which is just incredible for the center of the country. Like, I mean, that's a whole nother podcast sometime.
Well, Joe, back in 2016, you went through quite an ordeal when your gold medal was stolen from your car. Could you give us the details about how that happened and how was it finally located?
Yeah. What a story. So we were in Atlanta. My daughter, who I think was about 15 or 16 at the time, she was getting ready to go out west kayak for the summer. We were going to drop her off at the airport, and we had an early dinner in downtown Atlanta. And while we were at the restaurant, someone broke into the car and took my computer bag, and my Olympic medal was inside the computer bag. And um, it was one of those moments, you walk out of the restaurant and you walk towards your car and you sort of see the sun reflecting on the ground. And why is it doing that? Oh, there's a broken window. Oh, why there's a broken window? Oh, but there were a lot of other things in the car that if you would have seen what was in the car, like, it's amazing. This was the only thing stolen, was my computer bag. I don't think they definitely didn't know what was inside my computer bag. But anyway, so now the medal is not with me. It's with the person that stole it. But this just kind of went viral, the story about the stolen Olympic medal. And I don't think the medal is what the person was after. And, you know, a couple weeks later, there'd been a lot of news. It was about 3 weeks later. I got a call from this really wonderful woman named Charlemagne, and said, "Mr. Jacobi, I think we have something of yours." And what had happened was their 6-year-old daughter Chloe had been on a walk with her father, and they live in a tough part of town in Atlanta. They live in a hard area of Atlanta, but they were out on a walk in a wooded area. There was a lot of trash. And, Chloe picked up something off the ground, and her father said, "Chloe, put that down. You're always picking up trash. You're always picking up trash. Put it down." But Daddy, Chloe put the trash down, and she just kind of flings this piece of trash on the ground. And her father just sort of sees the sun sparkle off the gold medal and says, "Chloe, go pick that up." "But Dad, you said it was trash." "Chloe, go pick that up." And Chloe picks up the medal and he takes it back home, and Charlemagne calls me. So we go down there and we meet, and, we become friends. We've stayed friends to this day. The coolest part of the story, so I get the medal, by the way, is nothing like what it looked like before. The 1992 medals had like a gold-plated disc on top of a base and with a ribbon. So the base and the ribbon were gone. This is just like a disc, and it looks like the gold foil that your Christmas candy is wrapped in. But the very best part is that 2 times that summer, Chloe and I went kayaking together on the Chattahoochee River in a doubles whitewater kayak, and we just had such a great time. And I don't hear a lot from Chloe, but I do keep in touch with Charlemagne, and just the greatest family in the world. And yeah, so overall, I mean, what can you say? It was an amazing experience.
So, you wrote a book a couple years ago called Slalom, Six River Classes about how to confront obstacles, advance amid uncertainty, and bring focus to what matters most, which is found on Amazon and free for Prime members, by the way. Shameless plug. What was the inspiration for the book, and how did that project come about?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I loved writing that book. The idea behind the book is that, over more than 40 years of paddling rivers and cool adventures and being with great people and winning the Olympics, the idea was to sort of transfer all these ideas of running the river into navigating the river of life. And that made a lot of sense. I would say I love everything that's in the book. It was one of those projects where sometimes in a creative projects, you just almost feel like you're just getting it out, and you need to get this out of you. And I feel like I had waited almost like too long to write this book. Like, I mean, it published just in 3 years ago, it's like in a sense, I guess you could say, like, I waited till I was accomplished and I had done all these things, and I sort of wrote the book. And I love what I wrote, but I didn't give a lot of thought to the marketing behind it and getting the word out. And came during the COVID period, a lot of the writing, or it was at the end of it. And the only thing I would add on top of this is that now, in this stage of life, my girlfriend Maria and we still paddle a whitewater racing canoe, a lot like the boat that I raced in the Olympic Games, like the boat that's behind Brian in his photo. But in this chapter in life, I've also taken up the surf ski, which is a specially made kayak for surfing offshore ocean waves. And I absolutely love this activity, like to go from the river to the sea and surf waves, and this idea of accumulating free energy. Like, I just love it. And so a little over a year ago, I sort of did the opposite of what I did with the book. And I said, well, I'm not going to be Olympic or world champion in the sport, but I want to share what I'm learning. I'm really good at transferring the ideas from the water to life. And so I write a weekly essay called Thinking in Waves, in which I created this innovative model for, for clear and creative thinking. And people love it. And the best part for me is like, I'm not the expert. I'm like learning as you learn as I learn, like we learn together. And so, and when I love writing, I've been writing for a while, but if I do write another book, I think I'll think of it a bit differently. But that to say, all this to say, I love the stories, the structure, the framework, the ideas that I wrote about in Slalom. But I'm also learning from it and learning as a creator, as a creative, how to go forward and improve upon that process.
So before I ask you my final question, I just want to say you are the third Olympian that we've had on that has had their medals stolen. You guys got to quit leaving them in your cars. It's just getting crazy. So
Okay, so I'm gonna guess that you've had Amy Van Dyken on the podcast before. She didn't she leave?
nope.
Who was the swimmer that left it in the taxi in New York?
Well, I know we had Josh Davis on. He was U.S. swim captain and won
Ah,
like
Josh is a
five
great guy.
medals. Yeah,
Yeah.
he lost his. They were stolen out of the car. And then Tristan Geisler from the Winter Olympics. She was the first woman to ever win the gold in the skeleton when they brought that into the Olympics for women, and hers were stolen. So yeah, it's just you guys gotta quit leaving them in the cars.
Okay, done. Good.
But so joejacobi.com. Pretty excellent website for anyone who wants to go and obviously learn more about you, but just the sport in general. I tons of blogs and podcasts. So just tell us a little bit about the podcasts and the blogs and what people can expect.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think the idea was, I think in the world that we live in today, when I recreated the website, I just wanted to give people a place where like I just imagine them having a cup of coffee and just being able to read an essay that I wrote or a podcast that I was on. I look forward to adding this podcast onto my website as well. And just take something away and just feel like they're a little better for it. Of course, the other thing is that they can subscribe to Thinking in Waves there, and it's a way of just kind of keeping that relationship a little bit warmer. And anyone that reads it, I don't sell on Thinking in Waves. I just write things from my heart and lessons that I'm learning that I want to share with other people. And then third, I mean, people can of course schedule a call to see if there's any fit and alignment or interest in exploring a coaching collaboration. But it's really those first two things about subscribing to Thinking in Waves and just really giving people a unique place that to find my best content and enjoy that time there. And the website's only been live for a few months, and it's been phenomenal resource so far. It's been a while since I've had a website to sort of do what I wanted it to do, and I'm really happy with it. So thank you so much for the kind words about it.
Well, Joe, good stuff. Thank you so much for coming on. That was a pleasure speaking with you.
And there were 3 Olympians who left gold medals in taxis, by the way.
Three.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for what you're doing. And just, I love just the rich experience of sport and the way you guys have let sport into your life and the way you're sharing that. Like, that has come through not just in the recorded part of our conversation, but the pre part of our conversation before we hit record. Thank you guys for bringing that forward.
Awesome. I'll remind everybody watching this. A, check out his book. B, check out his website. C, if you're watching this, hit like, subscribe, and that notification button. Very important. And we'll see everyone next time. Everybody have a great night.